My name is Lwanele. I'm a clinical psychologist at Oasis Mental Wellness Hub. The reason why I am doing this particular video is because there's a lot of panic and anxiety around the coronavirus. So I thought, why not, I guess put it in perspective and do a video on why are we panicking, why are we anxious, and what can we do about it. So, it's normal to have so much panic and anxiety around because of this coronavirus, because we don't know it, we don't know how it comes from. We're reading a lot about it, but also at the same time we really just can't predict it, and we don't know where this is going to go. So currently we are under a lockdown, and what that means is that we if you're not an essential service, then you stay at home. You're not allowed to go out. You can buy your groceries and essential things, but you're just staying indoors so that you can we can curb this virus. But what that does is that it creates a lot of scenarios and fantasies in our heads. What's going to happen? Is this 21 days lockdown going to be enough? Are we going to stay a whole lot more, behind, in our houses and all of that? So there's a lot of questions that we have, but we actually don't have answers to. So, and even before the lockdown, there was a lot of, anxiety around, the coronavirus when it hit South Africa. And I think the thing about it is that we started a little bit with an illusion of, no, it's not going to happen, it's not coming here, it's in China, it's in Europe, it's not coming to South Africa. So we kind of like set in this bubble of ours. And then when it kind of started coming in and we started seeing the trajectory of the results, and then we kind of like anticipated this is probably where we're going to end up, then people started panicking. So why are we panicking so much? So anxiety is normal, right? We all have a little bit of anxiety depending on whatever situation it is. And I think the important thing about it is anxiety is always situation appropriate, right? Before you do an exam, before you do a presentation, before you do something that you're not used to or something that's outside of your comfort zone. That's the thing about anxiety. It's normal. You get butterflies, you get closing on your chest, whatever your symptoms kind of look like of anxiety. That's normal. We expect it. Everyone has it. If you don't actually have anxiety, we'll start thinking at psychopathology, like why are you not feeling, why is there no remorse, why is there no anxiety or fear? But that's a topic for another day. But I think the important thing is we all feel anxiety, and we're all supposed to feel anxiety. But why is it that now other people are feeling more anxious than other people, and why are people panic buying and everything? So I think the important thing to note is that we all have anxiety, but some of us are here and some people are here, right? So other people generally have a lot of anxiety, and which is why they'll come to therapy, take medication, do handbooks, do meditation or whatever. So some people are much more prone to anxiety because it's just the way they react to situations. So those people that are much more prone to anxiety and react in a much more anxious way will also act in a more anxious way in this side. So where we kind of like from here get here, because now we're feeling anxious, things are not necessarily predictable, because they were already here, they'll even escalate even higher. So you will get a lot of that panic buying and all of that. And the anxiety really stems from our reaction to situations. So when we react to situations, we either fight, flight, or freeze. But the thing about it is that you perceive a threat, and then you decide, am I going to be able to fight it? Am I going to run away from it? Or am I just going to freeze because I don't know what to do about it? So, but that's the thing when you perceive a threat. So this particular threat of the coronavirus, we see it as a threat, but also at the same time it's prolonged. So we can't necessarily fight it because if you're not a doctor or a person that's, doing a vaccine or whatever. So we're feeling helpless in that regard. So we can't fight it. So that particular response where some of us would proactively confront something so that it moves away from us, we can't do that. We can't necessarily run away. You can't travel and go anywhere. You have to stay inside your house. So you're kind of like confined in this particular space where you cannot do anything about it, and decisions have been made for you. The president is announcing a shutdown. This minister says they may help you, may not help you. This is what you're allowed to do, and this is what you're not allowed to. So it's like there's a lot of decisions being made for you. So even your fight response is not, you can't actively use it because it's like, where am I gonna run to? I'm in my house. And then your freeze response, which some of us have had, where you're just like, well, I don't know what to do. And I think that's where then the panic buying comes in. Is that, most of us are feeling so helpless, we can't really do anything about it. We can't help our clients when we want them to. You may have clients that you're like, they're a risk to themselves, but you don't really know what to do because you don't have the resources to curb anything, to help anything. So you just stay at home and try and figure out what to do best. So what some people do is that they then take initiative to say, what is it that it was within my means? What is it that is within my control that I can do to actually help and feel like I'm somewhat doing something about my own fate and my own future? So then they go buy toilet paper. They go buy toilet paper so that they don't run out, they go panic buying. They get all of these things to help them feel like at least I'm holding on to something, or at least I have a little bit of control or a sense of control in this uncontrollable state where every decision is being made for me. And the thing about that is that even when they do go into these, panic buying and all of that, it still doesn't actually help, because what it does, yeah, sure, you've got a lot of toilet paper, you've got a lot of groceries and stuff, but that's not really going to do anything for you. The virus is still out there. The virus, which is a threat itself, you haven't done anything about. You haven't run away from it. You haven't, actively fought it. It's still there. So it's still a threat. It's like, it's just a dog standing, or it's still there. It's like something that you can't necessarily do anything about. And I think that's the anxiety then we all start feeling, is that we're feeling so helpless. So I think the important thing there is that we're not actually going to do much rather than manage. And I think that's an important thing, is that when you can't control, you have to start managing. What is it that you can manage within your means, so that you can allow yourself to feel a little bit, more empowered and feel more, like you're not actually losing your mind. And I think that's when then you start having to allow yourself to consume information that's actually relevant, but also that's helpful for you. So consume as much information as you feel will help you to feel empowered to understand what this virus is about. But when you feel that sense of content, stop. Because when you start consuming a lot of information, then you start getting so overwhelmed, and then you get into panic mode. So you don't want to consume so much information and look at all the news and look at Italy and Iran and all of these places, and then immediately assume this is what's going to happen to us. Yes, perhaps it may happen, but we don't know. And because we don't know, let's not go into a spiral of starting to think about things that haven't necessarily happened. Let's tackle today so that we're not overwhelmed by all of the thoughts and the feelings that may happen, if or when they ever will happen the same kind of way, right? And I think that's the important thing. Empower yourself with information, and then use that information constructively to actually calm yourself down and realize what is fact, what is not fact. World Health Organization has really good resources. Don't keep on consuming all of the sensationalist information from the media, because it's supposed to drive something. So don't fall into that particular trap, right? Interact with your family is not the second thing that you can do to curb your own anxiety. Interact with your family over Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, whatever social media platform, or phone calls or chatting, but interact and engage with people that bring a sense of protectiveness for you, a sense of calm, a sense of support. Do those particular things. The third thing, do the things that help you. Exercise in the house, read your books, do whatever it is that calms you down, because the reality is you're not going to add anything by being anxious and starting to think about, what if I get the virus, and what if some people die and all of that. And the reality is, I think that's also one of the things that you have to start thinking about. What is the reality? Let's say the worst case scenario, you do get the virus. What do you need to do? Do you have the steps in mind to say, well, how are you going to manage that? Okay, fine, you're starting to feel like your chest is closing in, you're struggling to breathe, you've got a fever, you're coughing, all of the symptoms that we've heard. Then what do? You just call the national health number, and then they do a test. Yes, you test positive. So what are you going to do about that? You are sick. So what's the next step from here? Do I have a severe case? Do I have a mild case? Allow yourself to not get into a rabbit hole of overthinking about things that even when you were actually faced with that particular situation, you'd be able to manage. So you can manage this thing. If you do get if you get so ill, very ill, there's doctors that are going to help you through that particular process. If you start stressing a lot, you're not even necessarily helping anything. You just consuming your mind and putting a lot of capacity in your mind with something that you can't actually do anything about. So if you're a person who's more like a pedantic person, you want to know the direction of what's going to happen, then do it. Write up, a list of what if I do get, the virus. What am I going to do? Am I going to call this person, and then I'm going to call these emergency numbers, then I'm going to call this. That will help you also feel like at least you've got some sense of control and manage the particular situation, so that you don't get into this ripple effect of stress. Okay, so those are some of the tips that I think will really help us. And I think in understanding why we're being anxious, listen, it's normal to be anxious, right? It's normal to be anxious because some people are facing financial restrictions because of this, the lockdown. Before the lockdown, people were starting to be scared about can I go see this person? Can I go to this particular business? Can I go to a restaurant? So there's a lot of anxiety, financially. But what are you going to do about it, So start thinking, okay, fine, I won't be able to pay my bills at the end of April. So what do you need to do about it? Okay, start thinking, I need to go to FNB, Netbank, ABSA, whatever your bank is. I'm going to have to talk to them and say, listen, I can't make these particular payments. Therefore, I'm, asking for the payment holiday, whatever means are necessary. So the important thing is, instead of dwelling on the negative and on the what's not actually happening because of the coronavirus, start thinking about what can I do to make my life a little bit better. So perhaps you're not going to get extra income, but then how about you reduce the number of things that you're paying for? So, freeze your retirement annuity for 3 months or something. Ask your insurance to give you a holiday. Whatever it is, there's measures put in place because people understand that a lot of people are affected financially by this thing. So do those particular things that have been put in place and allow yourself to actually manage the situation. These things are manageable, These things are manageable, but when you start getting into the hole of overthinking, then your whole world becomes so much big and it becomes so overwhelming and you can't actually do anything about it. And I think the other thing is, if you really feel like you're not able to do these steps by yourself, then contact a therapist, do an online session, and do these tasks together, because then that's the person who's objective, who's going to help you to kind of like think and say, listen, let's pause here and reflect. What really is the worst thing that can happen in this instance? What can you do about this particular incident? So get help, whether it's a therapist, whether it's your coach, whether it's your family member. But if you feel like you're too overwhelmed to actually get an understanding, a space where you can thoughtfully go through these steps, then allow someone else to intervene and be there for you and actually help you through this particular process of understanding. And I'll reiterate, it is normal to feel anxiety. There's nothing wrong with feeling the anxiety, but do not allow the anxiety to take over. Do not allow the anxiety to manifest in such a panic that you actually are not able to work from home. If you're a person who works from home, enjoy time with your family, if you're there with your family, or even have time for yourself. We live such busy lives that, even though you're not going to get an income in this particular time, but use it as time to rest, so that when you get back into work, that actually you have the energy, the resources to get back into it. If you have a business, like businesses are really affected, but if you have a business, then take this time to do and implement the steps that you can't do because you don't have the time to do it on your day-to-day timeline and schedule. So actually, this is an opportunity that you can use to, what do I want to do with my life? What are the steps that I want to do in my life? What is my 5-year plan? What's my 10-year plan? What do I want to, where do I want to take my kids? So these are times where you can actually have these thoughts and reflect about your life, which you actually wouldn't have been able to had you had your busy life, because then there's a demand at work and there's a demand at your children's school or whatever the case is. But now you have an opportunity to actually plan and do the things that you haven't been able to do. So I hope this video has helped you in understanding at first why we're being anxious, and that it really is based on the sense that we love controlling things, and when we can't control things, then we get anxious. If you want to know why, because the reason why we all react in an anxious way is based on our context and our backgrounds. So if you're feeling like you want to take the next step further from that particular point to say, but why do I specifically react in an anxious manner or in a panic manner? Then that's something that you can pick up with your therapist, because that's what we're trying to do, to kind of like take you back to saying, why are you reacting in this way? Personally, what is it about you and your kind of anxiety, and why does your anxiety manifest in this particular way? That's something that you can go through in therapy. But I think in terms of what can you do right now, do what you can manage, empower yourself, but also don't get into a like a repetitive motion of thinking, distracting your mind and sabotaging yourself, and just like continuously having these repetitive thoughts that are not going to help you. Don't do that, because that's going to make your time even worse than it should be. And I think the other thing is that if you feel like you're having all of these thoughts and developments and anxiety, just write them down, and you'll pick them up in therapy when everything is lifted, or even consult and do an online session and talk about these things, because everything really kind of has a management plan. It may not necessarily have a solution or something to curb it, but there is a management plan in every situation, and you need to allow yourself to get into the space where you are thinking productively, where you are asking yourself, how do I manage this particular situation? What do I need to do in order to get into the space and the productive mode that I want to be part of? And how do I actually allow my anxiety to reduce? If you do need medication, you can take medication. If you need something milder, you can always take like something like Rescue. You can get that from Discam or Click stores. You can ask your pharmacist, what is it that they can prescribe that's more like organic if you don't necessarily into medication, or you can take, because the thing is, it's normal to feel anxious, and sometimes you'll feel even more anxious than other times. So if you're taking medication for a month or so, there's nothing wrong with that. So allow yourself to take whatever management plan that you can, so that you can allow yourself to do better in this particular time. It is